Hello and welcome to Multifamily Investing with Bob Biggins. I am Bob Biggins, and this is episode 6, Boots on the Ground, the first walkthrough. This is the next chapter after initial evaluation of the property. After you like what the property is like financially, it's time to take a walk. Ask for showing, ask the broker to schedule showing, and make your trip over. First thing you're going to do is really assess the outside. That's the first, actually the videos will be broken up. We're going to talk about doing the inside evaluation and the outside evaluation. We're going to actually start with the outside, which is right now. Then episode number 2 will be the inside evaluation. Now, ideally, you want to walk through the outside, or really, once you get there, you just kind of sit there in the driveway or in the road and just look at the property, look at the surroundings, just take a good look in and really look hard. How's the roof? Is it got any bows in it? The front porch, does that roof slope or lean or anything like that? Is there any obvious signs of maintenance, lacking maintenance? What's your overall gut feel as you're pulling up? You like it? What's your feel? You like it? You don't like it? So then you're there, and likely you'll be with your broker, and you can make a list, you can take pictures, you can do whatever you would like to do, a way to keep it straight in your own mind. But I'm going to go through the steps that I would do on the outside of a property, because sometimes things are so bad on the outside, I won't waste my time on the inside. Because if the owner doesn't keep things up well on the outside, chances are it's not going to be very good on the inside. Curb appeal, that was our first look. As you walk up to the place, how's the curb appeal? Is the grass long? Is the snow shoveled if it's the winter? Just how are things around the property? Let's start getting into some of the more specific things. We'll start getting into some of the areas, such as, we'll start with decks and porches. Now, front porch, there's oftentimes ceilings or there's coverings over the front porch. And if they're not in good shape, you might have a big smile in the front. The 2 beams are out, and there may not be a good one in the middle or no beam in the middle, and it just it smiles. So that's a pretty obvious thing. Where the 4x4s or the pillars come down, is there concrete or brick or block underneath there, or is it offset? Because you want all your load to be transferring down into the earth, straight on down. So you've got your pillars or your 4x4s or 6x6s, but you want concrete or brick right below that, so that it's not going to slope. It's going to carry the load. Are there enough for a porch, that is there enough beams in there? Is the porch itself sloping way too much, where the front end of your front concrete or pillars or brick or whatever is sinking into the earth because it's an insufficient footing, or it's just really old and it's had water damage over the years? Some things to look at there. So you really just take a really good look and evaluation and take note of any issue or being in very good shape. Then you head over to decks and stairs. Are they concrete stairs, concrete porch? Is it like one of those cast concrete little porches with the steps and the hand railing all built in? Is it treated wood? Is it the engineered wood decking? How are the stringers? The stringers are the long, they're long or short, 2x12 that are cut off for your stair stringers, and your stair treads are on the top of there. Are they cracked? Are they even consistent? Is every step about the same 6.5 inches, 6.5 inches, 6.5 inches, or 7 inches, 7 inches, 7 inches? Are they too high? Or some way too low? Are they really long? Or they're a little bit, the treads are too narrow? All things that maybe a DIYer might have done less than a code job, up to code job on some of the deck build, because sometimes a novice may take that project on and get a little in over their heads and maybe not make it as sturdy as it needs to be, or stairs are actually oftentimes a problem, or the hand railings are insufficient. The hand railings aren't the right height, or the hand railings at the top of the deck are not the right height, or the deck is sinking into the ground where it hasn't been properly footed, or the 4x4s holding it up, or the 6x6s are getting rotted and splintered, and they've just been eaten away, and just all the things you want to take a look at for decks and porches. Now, as you're looking at that, you're going to move right over to your foundations of your building or buildings. And what kind of foundation is it? Is it poured wall? Is it concrete block? Is it like older properties, like in Western Michigan? Is it sometimes brick or actual river rock or stone? I think it's river rock. It's a type of rock where they just built rock and like round rocks, and they just built them up with concrete in between. And sometimes the concrete that they would make on the site, they didn't have the right mixes, and the mortar joints are all powder. Those are all things to take a look at on your foundation. Is it cracked? Meaning there's settling in a corner. I've seen whole buildings where the whole right-hand side of the building has broke, and it's sitting like this. the whole building has broke off, kind of like the Titanic broke in half in the movie. It's the same kind of thing. I've seen buildings break in half. So take good notes of that. And sometimes people try to cover that over with vinyl siding or with some stucco or something else. But just take a look at, use your eyes and really, really see if things all look as plumb and level and square as they possibly can. But the big key is just look it over real good. Is it crumbling? Is it stuccoed over and the stucco has been waterlogged and it's just crumbling off and peeling off of the foundation? Foundations are a very important part, because that's all the load of your building is sitting on that foundation. And if that gives way or starts tilting, what usually has happened over the years is either people haven't had gutters, or they've had clogged up gutters and the water just comes over the gutters, or no gutters at all, and they just pound that water from this heavy rain, just pounds down on the soil at the foundation, and over time the foundation will just sink. Somebody may own it for 20 years, and if the water's been pounding on it for 10, it'll do permanent damage. But you've just bought this house 30 years later or 40 years later. You have to deal with that problem that the previous homeowner didn't take care of. So then you get into the siding, moving up the building, and it could be all kinds of different sidings, from brick to wood, which is like lap siding, vinyl, stone, cement board type of siding, many different kinds. And you want to see if paint's chipping, if vinyl is super bleached and the coloring is out of it, which makes it kind of brittle. If there's cracks in the vinyl siding, if you can see cracks there, look behind there and see if there's fan fold or insulation or anything back there, or house wrap. Just see how good of job that work has been done on the outside of the building, and you'll have a pretty good idea of the condition of much of the other building. If it's just one crack, for example, and it's well insulated behind there. Cement block, a lot of times it could be full cement block buildings. Just looking at the different siding types and then doing an evaluation on them. Next, you get into windows, different types. Vinyl windows are newer. Wood windows are often older. Sometimes woods were the original windows back in the 1900s, or now Anderson and Pella and other companies, they have wood windows, or sometimes there's hybrid windows where it's vinyl on the outside and wood on the inside. I think they call it vinyl clad or something like that. And it'll have the argon gas in between there for insulating purposes. So generally with windows, the newer the better, because the window technology has come a long way. Are they lifetime guaranteed windows? And oftentimes that lifetime guarantee goes with the building, not the owner. I think Anderson and Pella have those. Window sills, your outside sills, which is where the sills and the casing or trim around your outside windows. That's oftentimes wood if it's not wrapped in aluminum or AZAC board, plastic wood, and it's often can be in bad shape, and it's a good place to look for water that has gotten in there and given problems over the years. And keep on going up to your roof. Roof is so important. Roofs are, they're the number one thing pretty much, because you don't want water coming in anywhere, because that will give instant problems. But you got to have a good solid decking on your roof in order to have a good solid roof. Years ago, in the early 1900s, they just put shake shingles. They'd be shake shingles perpendicular to the boards, and those would act as your flat surface. And they would, years ago after that, they'd shingle on top of those. Well, nowadays you have to strip all that off, including shake shingles, but then you got to put a decking, at least about a 7/16 decking over top of the boards, because the big gaps, when you go to run a nail gun across there, it's going to blow the nails right through the shingle. So you got to have a structure beneath there. So check to see if they've been sheeted. When you get into the house, you can go in the attic and you'll see, if it's an older building, that it's got clean plywood in between the slats of the roof decking. And if you see that, it's fairly new roof, and it's been sheeted. I think sheeting just started being done more so 80s, 90s time frame. Before, they would often just put more and more layers. Sometimes I've done roofs before where there was 6, count them, yes, 6 layers on a building before. I don't know how it took all the weight. It's just all that load of 6 layers of shingles is just crazy. That makes for a long, several days of stripping before you can even then go back and put your new decking on, or additional decking, and then start with your ice and water guard, felt, and roofing eventually. But again, bumpy roofs, rippled roofs, discolored roofs, dips in the roof, and different shingle styles. If it's old T-locks, oftentimes T-lock shingles were the older kind. That's where they weave through each other. Or 3-tab, meaning that's 3-tab shingles are usually 15 or probably 20-year warranty. But dimensionals came in the 90s, I believe, late 80s or 90s, and they got that dimensional look, that the 3D look to them. They actually are, some sections are raised off of other sections, and they're a little bit thicker, and they don't have tabs in them. They're a solid rectangle, so they don't have the edges that could curl up. But if they're 25, 30 years old, you could start seeing definitely some wear on those, because that's been the warranty of them. Previous years was 25 years, and it went to 30, but now it's like a limited lifetime, many of them, but I don't know how they could last a lifetime. Good luck in collecting on a 50-year roof, I'm sure. Yeah, but while you're up there, next thing will be your chimney. If you have a chimney, because nowadays some houses don't have chimneys. They only have PVC pipes coming out the side for maybe a gas water heater and a gas furnace. That's the new up and coming things, are high efficiency, and they've got 2 or 3 inch PVC pipe goes through the side of the basement or the wall, or it could go through the attic. It could as well. But traditional chimneys, your brick chimneys or block chimneys, take a look, because there's a lot of weight that's quite high above your roof. And if that thing were ever to give way, and it's a multifamily property, I mean, you and your insurance company, and you're responsible for any damage or any injuries that could cause. And it could be called negligence, which is the standard, if you're not paying attention to your asset condition. So take a good look at the chimney, because that's oftentimes overlooked by people. And sometimes they're not even being used. They've already got the high efficiency pipes through the wall in the basement. They've been redone, but the chimney's still sitting there. So that's something to look at as well. So chimney safe, it's tall enough that it's lined. If it is active, oftentimes it needs a liner, a metal liner inside. And just what material is the chimney? Sometimes it could be clay pipe inside of there. It could be just brick. It could be block. There's many different types. So we're done with the building, at least our initial assessment of the building. So we're going to walk around. We're going to say, okay, what else we got on this plot of land? It could be 2 or 3 or 5 acres if you're looking at a big property, a multifamily, or if it's a duplex or a threeplex, like some of our newer investors, maybe that could be just a quarter acre or a half an acre. But nonetheless, look around, because that's all. When you buy the asset, you're buying everything. You're buying the land, you're buying the building, you're buying the substructures, you're buying the driveways, the garage, the problems. You're buying all the good and the bad. So you just want to have eyes wide open going in. So landscaping, nothing on your house likes water. You keep the water away from your house and your foundation, but landscaping, that's the only thing in my presentation that likes water. The trees and the grass and the shrubs, they love the water, but other than that, keep water away from your core parts of your house. Trees, if they're over your house, they're bad. They're unsafe. They're bad for your shingles. God forbid they fall over, because they're way heavier than you think they are, and they will. I've cut many of them down over the years. When they come down, it's horrendous. It's like, whoa! And God forbid that would often go through the top of your roof, right through your rafters. I mean, it could go right to the bottom of the house, depending on the size of this thing. So having a tree right over your house, bad news, and count that in your budget if you are looking to buy a property that has that. Roll that right into your initial budget, is getting rid of those trees. Plus, they damage your shingles. Your shingles like sunlight. Let me repeat, shingles like sunlight. They don't like shade, and they don't like water and moisture, especially for long periods of time. That creates the moss. You see the roofs that are only 5 or 6 years old, and they've got that black streaking going down there. That's because it's not getting adequate sun, either from trees, or sometimes it's just on the side of the sun just doesn't get to that side of the building as often as you would like. And so usually it's maybe the north facing portion of the house, I believe, just depending on where you are, frankly. But if you have no trees covering it, and it's still getting that color, usually it's because it's just not drying out, because you want your shingles to be good and warm all the time, in the summer, of course, and in the time when there's no snow. But trees, even around the trees around your building. One thing I didn't talk about actually was gutters. We're going back to the building now. The gutters, just during your initial assessment, do they have gutters? Are they pitched right? Are they full of junk? Do they have trees and leaves coming out of them? Do they have little plants coming out of them? The downspouts, are they far away from the building, or are they coming straight down with no downspout extension? Because all that water goes right straight down to the foundation. It will do like I talked about before. So that is one area that I'm sorry I missed earlier, but gutters are very important. It makes me think of trees, because trees create whirlybirds and leaves that go into gutters and clog up gutters and make them overflow. So that's why you want to get the trees away, or get some type of gutter guard material. They're very expensive to have professionally done, but you can buy them from a home improvement store or some different gutter companies. They will do them quite reasonably, but some of the big chains are, I think Gutter Topper or Gutter Guard, I think they're quite expensive. But if you're going to keep this property for 20 years and you've got a lot of trees, you want to keep the trees, it may be worth the investment, but just know that it's an investment going in. Landscaping, it's curb appeal. Think long-term. If your tenants are going to mow the lawn for you, you got a fourplex, you got one person who mows the lawn. Are they going to mow and edge and weed and make it look beautiful? From my experience, not really. They're going to mow, because otherwise they get a ticket from the city for not mowing. But other than that, you kind of need to do any landscaping. So depending what type of landlord you are, if you got one property, you want to keep that one beautiful, great. If you want to scale and you got 10 of these things, you're going to have a hard time keeping up on the landscaping. So do you want to be super great curb appeal, or do you want to be minimalist that's just kind of clean? Not a lot of stuff going on, but just a building and a lot, and it's nice and it's groomed, and that's kind of that. So it's whatever investor type you want to be. I'm just giving you options on the pros and cons of each. Driveways, that's one that larger multifamily often gets overlooked because they're so expensive. They've got parking lots, they've got 5, 10, 20, 50, 100 parking spaces, 200 parking spaces, and it's just quite costly to take care of blacktop or concrete driveways and parking lots. And so that is an area that adds a lot of value if you bite the bullet and replace them. But a lot of times businesses, rental businesses don't have the capital sometimes to do that. And so they just get pushed off and pushed off and pushed off. And you see big cracks and dips and water that's getting held in certain areas. So that makes it worse and worse and worse. And potholes, and tenants are unhappy, and plows tear driveways up, because you got to, if it's a bigger building, a bigger complex, you oftentimes got to have it plowed, and the plows just, they tear them up. So it's just something to be cognizant of, is driveways, parking lots, and sidewalks. The city could assess you sidewalks if you've got big height differentials. I think it's 3/4 of an inch or 1 inch between different slabs of sidewalks. And if you got to have 10 of those done at $400 or $500 each, it's a quick $5,000 that may get added to your taxes, or you got to pay it out of pocket, or however it is in your township or jurisdiction. Other buildings. Sometimes there's garages, sometimes there's not. Sometimes there's sheds, sometimes there's not. It could be a lean-to, it could be a carport. Different structures that are not house, and they're not the land, but they're auxiliary structures. Definitely hold value, but you got to take a look at them. Always try to get inside of a garage. Sometimes places that are for sale, the key is not in with the key package to get into the garage, but you want to see a garage, because it could be falling in, it could be in great shape. It could have electric, it could not have electric. It could have had electric ran by a mom and pop that is nowhere near, should be electric. It could be a bunch of extension cords going out there. It could be extension cords underground. These are things I've all seen before. And but sometimes in some areas, I think a lot of areas, you have a garage, for example, and the foundation is okay, and maybe a sill plate's all rotten, and the extensions, your verticals, your wall studs at the very bottom of the sill plate, they may be all rotted out. And that's very common in garages, because many of them don't have gutters, and they've had just years of neglect. But cities, if you knock that down, you want to build another one, oftentimes city codes won't allow you to do that, because there's different requirements or different ordinances for lot coverage. Maybe a 40% lot coverage max, or 60% lot coverage max. And if you take that, your current garage is grandfathered in, but sometimes if you change that over, then the inspector couldn't come in and say, I'm sorry, but you can't put one up. You've knocked it down without contacting us. So you want to get the city involved early if that's something that you're looking at. I mean, you can just do repairs. You don't have to let anybody know that's just a repair. But if it's a full-on reframe, re-side, re-roof, re-everything to bring it back to its former glory, you probably need to contact the city and see how far you can go before they may say, well, the code has changed on that. I know we've had a lot of that in Western Michigan, different towns and jurisdictions. Sheds could be a Rubbermaid shed, could be a wooden shed, one of those barn wooden sheds with a gambrel roof on them. Looks like a red barn. Sometimes they don't like, the city doesn't like when they're too close to the building, like a fire hazard. Sometimes they want them to be more out in the yard, so it's not so much of a fire hazard. So those are things to consider. Lean-to, carports, all good stuff to have as long as they're in decent shape. And the city doesn't come along and say, hey, that shouldn't be there, and they would ever make you tear it down because of somebody put it up without maybe a permit or without contacting the city first. So those all add value, but look at the structures. What kind of shape are they in? So let's go back for a minute for garages. Let's go a little bit deeper into garages, because that's probably the most other buildings that you're going to have probably 80% of the time as a garage. So the sill plate, the concrete is going to be a foundation around your garage. Usually that's only, I think it's maybe 2 feet deep of a foundation versus down to the frost line and way down in areas that are basements going down probably 6 to 8 feet, maybe 8 feet down. But a garage, I think it's more like 2 feet or 30 inches or maybe 36 inches for the perimeter. Newer ones are, but older ones are not. I mean, sometimes we're just set up on blocks and concrete in, or just dirt on both sides and concrete poured in the middle. There's all kinds of different ones, but look at that concrete and what condition it's in. Your sill plate. Your sill plate's a 2x4 or 6 or 8 or 10 that sit, probably not 10, 2x4, 6 or 8 that sits on top of that, the concrete. And then your vertical structures, your walls sit on top of that. So the sill plate's very often a failure area because people didn't take into account the moisture from the block to the wood transition, and there wasn't treated wood back in the 20s and 30s when these were being built, sometimes for older properties in like Western Michigan. Newer properties, not so much of a problem, but older ones oftentimes have been neglected. What's on the bottom? Is it crushed concrete? Is it concrete? But sometimes I've seen concrete in garages that are been neglected bad, and there may be 3 or 4 inch cracks, and they might have broke the concrete and it's down 6 inches and water's all pooling in there. So it could be a big mess. The walls, or is it 2x4 construction? Is it newer 2x, or is it older? Are they level, plumb, and square in every different orientation? You're not going to have a level with you, but your eyeball can kind of see if things are slanting like a trapezoid, or if they're standing up pretty good and square. Trusses and rafters, look up. Oftentimes they were handmade rafters back then, and they might be 24 inches on center, whereas today most of them are built 16 inches on center, and they're engineered trusses, whereas back then they were stick-built rafters. They were built right up on top of the garage, and people would just get up there and make the same profile on every rafter. And if you have the older ones, you can always run perpendicular 2x on the bottoms and on the sides. You can drop verticals down. You can add to the rigidity of those if you have an older 24 on center, old style rafters. But you'll kind of know if it's carrying the load well based on the roof, if it's sloping or not, if there's dips in there, if the sheeting is maybe not thick enough to hold the snow load, or it's just rotted out sometimes. Overhead door and man door. Man door is the 36-inch door usually that you go in and out of. Sometimes those are pretty rough shape or in decent shape. And the garage doors, is it got electric to it? Has it got a wall switch? Does it have a pad? Does it have garage door opener? Is the track somewhat decently new? Is the garage door opener new? Or is it all hand? Just be hand lock and you just lift it up and over like an aluminum door, for example. All things to consider, because of course a fully electrified door is going to be worth way more at resale than would be hand opening door. And it's going to be nice for your tenant too. The neighborhood. Look at the neighborhood. You're in your potential new multifamily, but look around. Everybody keeping their lawns up nice? Are their houses pretty nice? Is it a good neighborhood? What's the feel? Is it really noisy road? How are the sidewalks in the area? If it's in a more of a city area, sidewalks on both sides. Is this property got good sidewalks compared to the neighbors, or bad sidewalks compared to the neighbors? The road. Is the road an old bumpy concrete, or is it brand new blacktop? Or is it brand new concrete? All things that will add value or detract from the value of your multi when you buy as well as when you sell. And last but not least, before you go inside, and if it's not raining, you're spending a good amount of time out there. You could spend 15, 20 minutes just walking around the outside, just really taking it all in, taking pictures in your mind, taking notes and that sort of thing. And just, how does it feel? Now, if it's the rainy season or the snow season, it's a little bit different. The rainy season, actually, it's a great time to look at the outside of a house when it's pouring down rain. You might want to be in a raincoat or a hat, but you'll see where all the water is going. Are the gutters overflowing? Are the drains of the gutters, are they flowing out? Are they all getting clogged up and the water's just coming down? You can see you can actually see the path where the water has been beating down over the last weeks or months or years. Are there gutters at all? When you go up into the unit, can you see any browning spots where there could have been leak? There could be leaks, current or previous. How's the condition of the roof? How's the grading of the house? When that water, say, was to come off a roof and come down and beat on that, if your house is here and your land is sloped here, it's not as bad because the water is going to come down and go down away from your building on all 4 sides or 6 sides or whatever, your garage as well as your house or any of your buildings. You want to have the dirt mounded up so that any water that does come up there slopes back down. Worst case is when your sloping is like this toward the house and the water goes down the wall and you can just get water washing out your foundation. The dirt under your foundation literally can get washed out from all that water going down in there if simple act of keeping the dirt sloped properly at your house. Very important. And so when you're going down to the basement, look to see if there's any moisture or water coming in wall to floor transition, because that's typically where the water is going to want to come in from, unless the foundation is cracked, and that's going to go up and under, and it's going to come back on up to the point of least resistance. Any cracks in the floor, the hydrostatic pressure is just going to push up, 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 and try to come up anywhere it can. Properties back built in the 1900s, late 1800s, right into 1940s, 50s, and probably even 60s, they just have different, less water resistant walls over the years, unless they've been dirt dug out and foundation coated or anything like that, which is not too typical. That's it for outside. Piece of cake, right? Go right out there and take a look at your place and take your notes and evaluate if this is something you want to really put an offer in on or not, but you're only halfway done. Next step, open up that door and take a walk through, and I'll see you in the next episode of Multifamily Investing with Bob Biggins, episode 6, signing off. Thank you.